Welcome, everybody. 3 races remain here in the ABN Champ Car World Series season. With 3 races to go, we go to a track, one of the only ones that can claim being older than Indianapolis. It's the Milwaukee Mile here at the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds, West Allis, Wisconsin. Little over a mile in length here, 140 laps, 225 kilometers, 140 miles around this old and aging surface. Championship contenders and hopefuls and spoilers come together for some short track racing. The first of 2 in back-to-back weeks will be at Phoenix next week, but for everyone joining in, definitely not David Kreutz. He is on vacation this week. He'll be back at Phoenix in a week's time. I'm Carmen Sienna. I'm usually on track. Not tonight. We'll be here in the booth alongside me, as always, Olivia Hayward, 2-time ABN Champ Car World Series race winner, and Taylor Mills, who just came off of a 24-hour of Le Mans race win over the weekend. Racing here is so different. It's so difficult, even compared to that of New Hampshire, which we saw last week. Both of you have had a chance to look at the drivers racing on track. Liv, we'll start with you. What are the drivers dealing with right now going into this race? Hottest is right now as we see drivers going through qualifying.
I think what we're going to see is we're seeing a lot of drivers have very aggressive settings on their tools because there's very little banking. There's no progressive banking either, so it's going to be on that low line trying to hook the apex as well as you can, carry speed through the mid-corner. And we're seeing drivers get on the tools quite heavily on the weight jacket, on the roll bars to try and keep the car out of the outside wall. But just like last week at Kansas, if you're too aggressive trying to keep the car out of the wall, sometimes that'll spin you around and feed you rear end first into it instead.
Obviously, this race is going to be very interesting, going to be very difficult. You see the camera shots here, just looking at how old and aged this track surface is. Taylor, you've done some races here, and obviously maybe not Milwaukee, but you've done some races in the IR18. You've done some races in this car. Track surface, track texture is everything. Tire wear is going to be everything. Looking at sort of what we're seeing just based off of practice so far, the 40 minutes we saw in practice and some qualifying laps, how difficult is it to try to find a lane here with dirty air being so critical to managing your race from the get-go?
Well, first of all, hello everybody. Thank you again for the fantastic intro, Carmen. Yours are always spectacular for me, and I always feel that ego inflate a little bit. But in terms of hunting for that clean air, it's going to be just as important as it was at places like New Hampshire. Expect something similar to that. I don't think we're going to see as many lines be available for use here tonight because there's no line more rubbing in than that inside line. And as Olivia alluded to, that lack of progressive banking is going to mean there's not really any advantage to be gained by going high. So expect a lot of holding the inside and a lot of the drivers trying to, instead of get the air on their nose, to carry some more speed on the outside, because that's just going to scrub your tires as much. Expect them to try and apply pressure to the cars in front to try and make the overtakes happen, to try and set the cars in front offline a little bit and let them make the mistakes so they can just slide on through.
Obviously, this race is going to be very important to drivers that are still on the outside looking in to the championship cut line. Reminder that the Arrowhead 500 on May 15th is a double points event. So the window to be within is a lot larger than what it normally would be. The objective for all the drivers, try to get within 80 points of Emily Howell by the time we get into Indianapolis there in the middle of May. 2 races to do that. Some drivers a little bit closer than others. But this is a chance to make things happen going further through the grid here. We'll show you where some drivers are located here with qualifying set to come to an end here in about 30 seconds time. Some of the drivers there at the bottom of your screen. Mo Perry in the top 5 again. A smaller field, obviously going through spring break. Some drivers on spring break. Drivers like Austin Farr not available tonight. Some drivers coming in for the first time. Blake Henderson coming into this race. Lilac Zier not where she wants to be to start this race. Looking to be outside the top 10 here. But we have 15 cars set to do battle here. Should be a quicker race. Not as chaotic as what we saw at New Hampshire a couple months ago. But Craig Forsyth, a driver who is going to need to make a charge here to get anything out of this season, currently sitting on provisional pole with the checkered flag flying. How important is this race potentially to someone like Craig Forsyth? Olivia, obviously you're looking at the points here. The points are so important going into this part of the season. Craig missed the opening races, came in at Watkins Glen and did really well, won that race. Who are you looking at as being potential late blooming drivers going into this race? No Mihal, no Austin Farr, no Hamilton Akabuzi.
Yeah, I think that the two drivers I have my eyes on here are Craig Forsyth and Lilac Zir. They are, I believe, the only two drivers in the top 10 of... No, along with Alex Miller, the three drivers in the current top 10 of the standings who are in attendance here. Of course, this series has 4 drop rounds, of which none of them can be the 500. And so, for some drivers like Emily Howe and Nicholas Pressey, who is making his first... Oh, Nicholas Pressey's also here as well. Sorry. But there's some drivers who have already been to a few races, and so have those... They'll start cutting into those drop rounds. But Craig Forsyth, Nick Pressey, Lilac Zir, they do have some weak races, some unfortunate performances. Nick Pressey at Richmond, Lilac Zir at Texas, and then Alex Miller's worst result being also at Texas as well as at Homestead. This is a chance for those drivers to jump up in the standings because, again, there's no drops allowed for the Arrowhead 500. Forsyth is down 95 points. If he can get even a few extra points here picked up from just some of those races that are currently blanched in his list, that'll put him right in contention where if he has a breakout sort of result and a win in the 500, and some other drivers come into some misfortune, that could be enough to vault him into the championship conversation. For Lilac Zir and Nicholas Pressey, they have a lot of races already to try and fight against on their drops, but they're both within, about 65 points, so it could be a very big factor in their championship.
Obviously, we're going to keep an eye on things again. None of the championship leaders are here tonight. No Akabuzi, no Hal, no Farr, no Christina Ryan in the board either. Several drivers in the top 10 not here tonight. Craig Forsyth, pole position. He's 95 points out entering. He'll close in automatically just looking at the drivers in the field. He'll gain no less than 15 on all of those drivers listed. Another driver coming in looking to play spoiler, Pacey Wygant on the front row for the first time in this series. And then looking further down the order here as we see the formation lap, a singular formation lap for this race. It's Bobby Blowers and Mo Perry in row number 2. Lily Pelletier Sharp and Sophie Connell sit in row 3. Row 4 is Martin Roberg and Alex Miller sitting in the top 8. The top 10 earmarked by Blake Henderson, his first start of the season, his first in over a year. Nick Pressey alongside him in row 5. Row 6 is Lilac Zir and Bryce Saucier. Row 7, Zach McBride and Tommy Withers in the last car running. Brandon Cruz sitting in row number 8. The pace car pulls in, and it's time to go. Green flag is in the air. We're racing at Milwaukee, 140 laps on tap for the 15-car field. And immediately Forsyth pulls out a gap over Wygant. Everyone has to try to figure out where they're going to be and what line they're comfortable with early. Dirty air for the first time with all the cars on track.
Bit of a stack up on the start. Fanning out into turn 1 and through 3 and 4. We were nearly 4 wide at one point. We're expecting that low lane to be the dominant groove, but while people are still fighting for position, it's not everyone's struggling in the dirt. Yeah, maybe not used to it with such a small field in practice and are washing up a good couple lanes from that sort of dark newer tarmac. But for now, it is Craig Forsyth leading Pacey Wygant. Not too many movers so far. I think everyone is trying to bed in and find where the limit of their tyres is and then start to work towards a charge later in the stint, maybe with a bit of tyre save going on.
Right now, riding on board with Lilac Zir, sitting right now in the 11th position, right where she started, but under threat from Brandon Cruz. If we look back at where Lilac's looking at right now. She's got to look further. She's got to look all around her, and that's hard to do in this cockpit. Taylor, Lilac's in a position where she needs to start gaining positions, and she needs to do it early while the tires are still fresh. How difficult is that going to be for Lilac sitting this far behind, looking back ahead? You see how single file, how single groove it is early on already. We're only 5 laps into this race.
Well, we know how Lilac likes an alternate strategy, so don't count her out this early just because she's hanging back. She's got a smart head on her shoulders, so she's just trying to get a feel for the cars in front of her, for the dirty air, try and save a little bit of fuel, and maybe try something a little bit different come later in this race. Waiting for some caution, the pace car to come out, try and go long on a stint just to try and get out of sync with the rest of the field, and then go from there. If anyone's going to be able to do something like that tonight, it's going to be Lilac here.
We're expecting a pretty safe 2-stop. We don't think it's possible to save for the 1-stop, but the same was true at New Hampshire, and we still saw Lilac Zir save a bit of fuel, extend her stint, and from not the best qualifying position, managed to vault herself into 3rd place by the time the race ended. So even though it might still be 2 stops, it's about when you take those stops, and we've seen Lilac pull off some wonderful strategies in that line before. Can she do it again here?
Driver to keep an eye on right now, Mo Perry, fastest driver on track at 21.91. It's still that way over Forsyth and Wygant. Sitting right now in 3rd is the 28, who's had a feast or famine season here in the ABN Champ Car World Series. Coming in, he's had some good races. His first top 10 came, I think, back in Fontana. You see the Fontana or Kansas. I'll have to double check and look at that, but
11th at Kansas and then sits at sorry, 11th Fontana and then sits at Kansas.
Gotcha. So his best result did come last week. He's finding his vibe, finding his form in the later stage of this season. Driver who's been really grinding it out here throughout the season. Now looking in a podium place right now ahead of Bobby Blowers, another driver who is going to be rubbing his hands together because the drivers in front of him, I believe all of them, are out of this race at the moment. They're not present, so Blowers is going to gain the most here, sitting right now in the 4th position. That's 32 points for Blowers alone, just where he started this race.
Bobby Blowers, though, very much not worried about the cars in front of him right now. As much as the gap has closed to Mo Perry in these last few laps, he's had Lily Pelletier Sharp to worry about for the majority of this race so far. Pelletier Sharp currently, though, tucked right up underneath his rear wing, trying to make a move work into turn 1. But not enough momentum coming off those final turns 3 and 4 to make anything happen. But her runs on corner exit have been so good so far, but gets just a bit of a wiggle on the entrance to turn 3. Drops back a couple of tenths, but that inside line pulls her straight back into contention once again as she picks up as much slipstream as she can down the start-finish straight and is now hunting for that clean air behind these 2 cars.
You're seeing the lane move forward there. I think Olivia is probably going to mention that. The lane's moved away from the rubber in-groove. You see the darkened side of the track. Everyone's ran away from that. Liv, do you have any idea as to what that may be and why?
Potentially what we could be seeing is an artifact of the new oval refresh that iRacing brought into place a couple of seasons ago. It could be that through all that practice running, that low line has just gotten very hot and it's naturally throwing people out up to that top groove, and people are deciding to roll with it rather than trying to fight the car down there. Just carry the extra mid-corner speed, take the wider arc, and especially if you're a leader, especially if you're Trade Foresight, if you're throwing dirty air in that high line, it's very difficult for anyone to get a run on you because they can duck low and hit that hot track and still get into your weight and wash up into you, or there's no room to go high. You feed them on the wall at that point.
You see that's what Forsyth is doing right now. He's not giving Pacey Wygant much of a lane to run, but Wygant staying in tow. The HTL Truck Series champion, on top of embarking in his first full season in the HTL Cup Series, also taking part in some races here in the ABN Champ Car World Series as he steps his toes into the world of open wheel racing. Doing fantastic so far. Short track racing, his specialty. He was a podium finisher last time he was here in Milwaukee in HTL. Trying to do the same tonight, and he's opened a gap up to Mo Perry as Perry, Blowers, and Sharp continue to stay close together for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Further behind, Brandon Cruz battling with Zach McBride and Bryce Saucier. Saucier, not a strong suit, being on these smaller ovals. Not looking forward to Milwaukee tonight and Phoenix next week. However, Saucier really looking forward to Indianapolis there in 4 weeks' time as racing continues on 3 weeks' time, excuse me. So you're just watching two cars just go single file. Obviously, they've not all picked up the memo there, with some drivers obviously running the inside lane. I believe that was McBride running the deep inside lane there. You talk about the track temps being different. When you look at the rubber in surface compared to everything else, and obviously talk about the refresh with the outer lane being a little bit more grippy with how everything's looking right now. Track temp is sensitive. Everyone practiced on a hotter track temp as well leading into this race. What is the track temp looking like right now? And obviously with the cloud cover, it's going to go down. Is that helping lead to the credence that the track temp is sort of leaning towards making this a little bit more single groove, but not in the traditional sense?
Well, I want to push the track temperature conversation to one side just for a moment here, Carmen, because Bobby Bowers has actually been overtaken by Lily Pelletier-Sharp. Just in the build-up to this race, I was talking about how the way you're going to get moves done here tonight is by pressuring the cars in front of you into a mistake, and that's exactly what happened. Pelletier-Sharp just tucked in behind Bobby Bowers. He went a little bit deep into one of the corners, hit the outside wall, and has actually got damage on his front wing now. The gap's opened up to over 2 seconds, and he's coming in under pressure from Sophie Connell.
We also had, earlier on in this race, Tommy Withers, who was languishing at the back of the field, struggling to find pace. A slow spin on the exit of 2 into that inside wall, and has pulled it into the pit lane here. No caution. Kept it on the grass for the most part, but that is likely our first retirement from the race. And we have 14 remaining cars on the lead lap, as Bobby Blau is still under fire from Sophie Connell, who's diving low, and Bobby Blau's trying to hold the outside line, but Alex Miller as well trying to pressure and might actually take a dive at Sophie Connell here, who's having to go offline and into that potentially hot surface on the inside to try and get around the 34 car.
We'll take a look at the replay with Tommy Withers here in a moment. Riding on board right now with Alex Miller, sitting the deepest of everybody at the moment. Sitting 5.1 seconds off the race leader of Craig Forsyth. Here we go. Miller to the outside of Connell. And that is a position gain momentarily, but he's got nowhere to go because there's Blauer still in front of him, holding up that outside lane, as you mentioned.
Yeah, that outside line's still proving strongest though tonight. Plenty of momentum out there to try and make things happen, even with the dirty air from the car in front. Alex Miller, though, showing great race pace once again, looking like one of the fastest drivers on track at the moment. Never been much of a qualifier so far in this championship, but he has managed to pick up... Whoa, and there's been a wreck in the back. Nicholas Pressey, and I think that was Blake Henderson come together in turns 1 and 2 and just throws our old championship leader into the outside wall. This is not the race that Nick Pressey wanted if he wanted to get himself back into the championship contention.
It is not. Honestly,
that was
no fashion repairs.
Martin Roberg and Nicholas Pressey. By the look of things, both cars struggling, but Pressey taking the worst of it for sure.
We'll go back and look at what happened here. This is Nick Pressey and Martin Roberg. Now, I'll play it in slow motion here. This is Pressey in front of Roberg as well. Roberg made his debut last week at Kansas to get his Arrowhead 500 eligibility up. Roberg goes to the inside. You see him there in the inside lane. And we're going to play it in full speed. He's going to drift up right into the 94. And that looks like a little bit of netcode. Let's see if we can get a chopper cam for that. I see Pressey coming to a rest there out of turn 2.
Most of the field coming in under this caution. Looks like it's just Tommy Withers who just got back out on track to try and get 1 lap back.
Netcode. Oh my goodness.
Heavy netcode, and for the 4th place winner in the championship, what was going to be a great opportunity to try and get some points back is just an unfortunate day, done earlier than it should have been. Not really any blame to put on Robert. He was leaving plenty of room, but...
Yeah, Netcode has other plans. Here's Tommy Withers spin into the inside wall. Pure concrete there, and that's the rear of the car that got the most damage out of that, so that's a totally completely done for the 23 of Withers, who's still kind of learning. He's had some good results here in the Champ Car World Series. Obviously, tonight's not going to be one of those. And you see him just trying to limp it back to pit lane. Does so successfully, thankfully, but not a good night for him so far. But he's still in it, and why is that important? Because Pressey could lose more points even still if he's out of the race and Withers is not.
Yeah.
Speaking of that caution, though, one of the drivers that's going to be absolutely thanking whatever deity they pray to Bobby Blowers has been able to come down pit lane and replace that front wing, and is now back out running in 5th place. But during that pit stop cycle, Lily Pelletier Sharp managing to jump up 2 whole places and is now sat 2nd behind Craig Forsyth.
Pacey Wygant with a 26.6 pit lane time. Lily Pelletier Sharp 2.2 seconds faster, the fastest of anyone through that cycle. Drivers with slow stops, Lilac Zir missed her bots, apparently the spotter not being very cooperative on that one. And Brandon Cruz trying to get out of pit road ahead of Zach McBride, got off the limiter early, spared, and has had to go to the tail end of the field once again.
So trouble throughout the field on that first pit stop. It is a slower pit lane, slower than what it is at New Hampshire. But Forsyth still at the front of the field. Pelletier Sharp now in 2nd place over Mo Perry. Pacey Wygant down 2 spots. Blowers down in 5th. Sophie Connell in 6th, back ahead of Alex Miller. All of his battling for nothing there as he falls a position. Martin Roberg down in the 8th position. Blake Henderson in 9th. Bryce Saucier in 10th. McBride, Zier, Cruz. Top 13. Withers on track. Pressey out. Our first retirement is not Withers. Instead, it's Nick Pressey, who is out after only 25 laps here at Milwaukee.
And of note here, as we're about to go racing soon, that caution was an excellent chance for everyone to top off on fuel, and now it should be one stop to the end. I was getting full push, 50 laps on a fuel tank here, maybe a bit less with this wider line, but it's less than 100 to go now, so they should be good with just one stop for tyres as the pace car pulls off, and Craig Forsyth will bring the field back to racing speed.
Green flag racing once again. A little bit of a checkup there further back between Zier, McBride, and Tommy Withers. But it's like everyone gets away safely. Withers picking off laps one by one. Forsyth leading the way. Sharp in 2nd. Highest she's been in this race as it's in its early stages. But here comes Wygant back around Perry. Perry doesn't fight it too awful hard. Wygant back to 3rd. The hope now is that Wygant can help lead Perry back around Pelletier Sharp to restore the podium we had before that caution came out.
Bobby Bowers looking really uncomfortable already. It's just been overtaken around the outside by Sophie Connell and Alex Miller, dropping down now to P7. Just not able to find the grip on the racetrack, no temperature in the tyres, and those 2 cars were just able to go straight around his outside with no problems at all, down in P7.
Yeah, and he's struggling still. That's Roberg on his rear end right now on that gearbox, and Blake Henderson fighting his form. He's not raced a race in Champ Car on a short oval. He's not raced on a track smaller than 1.5 miles. But here he is taking on one of the harder mile-long racetracks on the calendar and arguably in the United States. And making things work. He's gotten around Roberg and now looking for a way around Blowers. Henderson up a spot, looking for 2. Blowers, a little bit of latency there. Henderson staying true to the outside lane. Roberg peeked to the inside, but mostly defending from Zach McBride in this battle for the top 7. Henderson's not had a top 10 finish in the Champ Car World Series before. Right now, he's looking really good to try to challenge not only for a top 7, but if he's got the pace to move on from Blowers to try to contend with Sophie Connell and Alex Miller for a top 5.
While we watched this battle, as we had another retirement, Brandon Cruz maybe picking up a penalty on that check up on the restart. Not too clear, but has pulled it into the pit lane and left the session. So his day will be done. Unfortunately, did turn more laps than Nicholas Pressey. So as Withers comes back around, it's likely that on 94 will still be classified in the final position of this race. As here we go, Blake Henderson now under a bit of threat from Martin Roberg. Can't seem to get anything going behind Bobby Blowers on this high side. But Roberg isn't confident enough to clear, and Blake tends to fight it back on the outside for the time being. You can see just how much the aero wash from the car ahead is brutal. There's a little bit of tap.
Trouble! That is Henderson and Roberg that make contact. Car is in the wall. Henderson off of Roberg. Caution out for the 2nd time tonight. And we saw Henderson run a lower line, and Roberg and Henderson made contact. And that's going to draw Henderson's race to a close. And we'll take a look at the replay here in just a moment. But that was a vicious hit with the outside wall. He's trying to make it back to pit lane to see if that car's repairable, but I think that car is pretty well done and dusted. Henderson, we'll see him again next week at Phoenix. But he is just going to go ahead and pull it back to pit lane the hard way.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that's irreparable damage. Typically, we see with these champ cars, if the suspension's gone, it's too much damage to be repaired. Especially with the angle that his suspension was at, to spin like really lazily like that on corner exit and barely be able to keep it out of the wall. Yeah, just an unfortunate bit of two cars not really going into one. You see Roberg on the inside drifting up as Henderson starts to come down a little bit, and then the contact happens right in the middle of the circuit on corner exit, and it just fires Henderson right into the wall, disconnects that front right and rear right wheel, and then he's just a passenger all the way down the start-finish straight.
And this was a battle that had been raging a little bit. Roberg thought he was clear, had a moment to be clear, but wisely did not drift in front of Henderson there, with Henderson having that momentum. Henderson drifts down a little bit, doesn't leave the middle lane here over Roberg, and Henderson's going to be fuming after that incident, because you see him not really move further to the inside there. You look at where the seams are located there. Stays pretty well lined up in the middle, and Roberg just tight on the exit, drifts out, and Henderson, the slightest contact there just unsettles the car big time. Zach McBride was able to avoid it there.
I think Blake Henderson just staying a little bit lower than Roberg was expecting, and that's how the contact happened. It's one of those, you can try and learn and predict where your competition are going to go, but at some point they're going to surprise you and do something a little bit different to what you're expecting, and you need to be able to react to that in the moment, because at the end of the day, you've got to try, if you're making an overtake, you've got to try and do it safely, and you can't do it by making contact. But just an unfortunate bit of miscommunication between two cars there, which sadly did end Blake Henderson's race there.
Blake Henderson definitely showing his displeasure from the pit box, and I honestly can't blame him. It's been a rough way to end what was such a promising race. Pacey Wyden has also picked up a meatball at some point here, I'm not quite sure where, but elsewhere we have a couple cars on strategy calls here. The top four decide to stay out under that caution: Pelletier, Sharp, Connell, Miller and Saucier, with Zach McBride and maybe Martin Roberg deciding to come in for fuel only. Every other car who came to pit lane is on fresh tyres, so we let's see whether that tyre delta is enough to make some of these moves happen, or whether it'd still be very difficult to get around a car holding that high line.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what happened to Pacey Wyden here in just a moment, because this is confusing why he's got a meatball.
Contact on pit entry.
Oh, that's gonna be something.
With the pit wall, like the attenuator? Or
no,
here.
he.
Oh,
so it's on his pit entry
turned.
cut down late.
Oh, that's even more heartbreaking there. Oh yeah, he just grabbed the attenuator, and there's Mo Perry that got a piece of it too.
I think he missed the attenuator. I think he just maybe got caught out by how soon the pit speed limit was, and lots of the rear tires tried to get stopped. And looks like Mo Perry's gotten away with just that front wing damage, but Pacey Wyden taking an extended repair to that rear tire. So we're down to now 10 cars running on the lead lap, with Lily Pelletier Sharp on all tires leading the rest of the field green here.
Coming out of the final corner, Pelletier Sharp will try to lead now over Sophie Connell and Alex Miller, Saucier, McBride, Blowers, Roberg, Zier, Perry, and Forsyth. Your top 10. Withers set now to pick up even more places and be in potential for a top 10 here at Milwaukee with the attrition we've seen already in the first 40 laps. But Pelletier Sharp doing a good job leaving Connell and Miller to their devices to battle for that second spot, as Miller and McBride and Saucier also go for the top 5. And Forsyth,
and the cars
position to be in.
And the cars on fresh tires tripping up over each other, and no one's able to charge. The 5 who are on the old tires maybe have them already fired up, or maybe it's these battling for P6 on bad, but they've got a bit of a breakaway right now. And it's now going to be Bobby Blowers trying to will this field through. to get to the back of Bryce Saucier, but Mo Perry's diving deep. I know he's not going to be happy after what happened on pit entry there. Leaves the lane for Bobby Blowers on exit, but is again going to try and take that low line and maybe take P6 for himself to charge at this top 5, who are on old rubber and holding on quite well for now.
Hell of a restart, for Lily Pelletier-Sharp there, just to get away from the field by 1.1 seconds so far. Sophie Connell and Alex Miller perhaps hampering their chances to get to the head of the field by battling, but for only Pelletier-Sharp's second restart from the front of the field this season, she's absolutely nailed it this time.
Yeah, clean air is key here, and we saw this a little bit in New Hampshire, but New Hampshire you could kind of create a second lane. We saw that with that battle with Austin Farr and Hamilton Akabuzi in New Hampshire. This race very much not that way. You need to be a little bit more creative about it. Track position is so much more important here than in Loudon, and we're seeing that right now. A lot of these drivers came down pit lane under that last caution. They decided to stick it out, and it's working so far. The issue is when you have to deal, obviously, with Craig Forsyth, who is now going to have that advantage. If he can protect his tires while trying to also go through the field, because he's still struggling, hasn't got around Mo Perry yet, who also came down pit lane there.
Nearly had a move done on Mo Perry. The 28 got checked up behind Bobby Blowers. Forsyth made a late lunge to the inside on the front stretch, but again, couldn't get the speed carried through. We saw this at New Hampshire, where you can get alongside nice and easily on the entry to the corner, but the car on the high side is just carrying so much more mid-corner speed that they get the run and are able to clear by the time you get back to the start-finish line. And currently Craig Forsyth has no way around Mo Perry, and it is Bobby Blowers still leading the cars on fresh tyres. But with no progress made to the top 5, I think we're seeing what we've seen before this season, where the heat in the tyres is a much more of a factor right now than the wear, and maybe it'll flip later in the stint. But for the time being, Pelletier-Sharp and company are really not having to defend their positions at all. They're just cruising at the top 5.
Yeah, right now, Saucier sitting in the 5th position will be the gateway for whoever gets through. Blowers, Mo Perry, Forsyth, Roberg, or Zier. Sharp has set the fast lap of the race at 21.81 at the front of the field. Biggest gainer so far would be Zach McBride, who is currently sitting in 4th, I believe on track now. Once again, Ace Pacey Wygent filling out the car, seeing if that car is still drivable, and he's going to stay out of the way here. But now Withers has some catching up to do, because it's still a 3-lap difference between Wygent and Withers. But if Wygent's car is not 100%, Withers' car looks a little bit quicker right now. That could be something to keep an eye on there in that battle for what could be the edge of the top 10.
Every championship point counts, especially coming in towards the start of the drop round. So perhaps smart of Tommy Withers to stay out and try and pick up some points where he can. We're definitely going to see some. I feel like we're definitely going to see some more incidents later on in this race. It's giving that vibe that it's going to be a bit of a race of attrition. Milwaukee can be a little bit of a clumsy track if you're not careful. If you push a little bit too hard, that outside wall comes up to greet you. So it's the biggest part is just going to be for these drivers to keep it on the island, keep it out the wall, and just keep plugging those laps away.
Pelletier-Sharp has a lead right now of 3.1 seconds. This track speaks to the French driver better than most that she's encompassed. Obviously, her first race win came at USA Speedway last season. But Pelletier-Sharp has renowned success here at Milwaukee. First podium in the ARC's Saturday Night Showdown Series came right here in Milwaukee. Pelletier-Sharp's first laps led last season in the HTL Cup Series came right here in Milwaukee. Once again, Pelletier-Sharp at pace, at speed, and comfortable at the Milwaukee Mile. 3.3 seconds. Connell and Miller, who aren't even distracting each other at this point. Miller's 1.5 behind Connell, but Connell spent up a lot of rubber, a lot of tire, trying to fend off the 49 car that now there's a never-ending gap as Connell tries to find any way to build speed to close in that gap that is now expanded to 3.5 seconds. Liv, it's a wild track that is constantly evolving, constantly changing as drivers choose and change lanes. What are you seeing here that's making such a difference now with everyone having clear space, at least enough clear space, to not be affected by dirty air at the top of the field.
I think if I had put it down to one thing, I think what I would say is that this sort of track is most akin to a road course. And that is where Peletier Sharp has shown a lot of potential, even when she was a rookie in ABN. The road courses were where she had her strength, and as she's started to get more familiar with the oval side of racing, that experience is still coming very handy. She gets very close to the wall there, but she's running that top line to some great effect, while Connell is still preferring to try and cut down a bit. Is maybe now trying something different. She's realizing it's not working. But I did get a message from Peletier. Oh.
Sorry, riding on board right now with Blowers as he tries to battle with both Saucier and McBride, trying to go for 2 into 1.
He's got them both.
I think he's got it. A little bit lazy there, but he also almost tagged the wall himself. And now we're 2 by 2 behind him.
And I think the tire crossover's now happened, so Peletier Sharp has a 9-second, nearly 10-second lead to Bobby Blowers on those older tires. But Miller's only 4 seconds up the track, and it looks like Bobby Blowers has now been unleashed. And I mean, Mo Perry is also looking for a way through, so is Craig Forsyth. It's an absolute bottleneck here with Zach McBride and Bryce Saucier. And looks like contact on the higher lane.
Whoa!
Oh!
Whoa.
That was contact, 3 wide. McBride had nowhere to go, and he got bottlenecked out of all of it.
Craig Forsyth almost judging that one to perfection, just making the tiniest little bit of contact on corner exit with his right rear tire, and just about not spinning the car out. What a brilliant piece of precision driving there.
Casey Wygen holding pace with these drivers as well, but he's got the fresh tires. He came out later after getting his car repaired on pit lane. Zier looking for the position over Martin Roberg. Roberg goes onto it 4 right now. But you're seeing the difference here as we look through the field. Zier sitting in the 9th position at the moment. 13.42 seconds behind the race leader. Zach McBride 14.3 behind. Remember, this is a lap time of 22 seconds. McBride over 2/3 of a lap behind the race leader at the moment, in danger of potentially going a lap down if we keep seeing more green flag running like we're hoping we see. So we see some of that strategy come into play. We talk about the cars with the new and the old tires. We sort of know the time frame that the cars and old tires have to pit. What do you do if you're someone like Blowers, Forsyth, and Perry and Zier, who have the flexibility to either stay out longer or come in and undercut? How do you handle that? What's the adjustment? Obviously, both your race winners in your discipline, you've had to use strategy calls to make work happen. We'll start with Liv here. What's your call if you're someone in Blowers or Forsyth's position and you know that you're going to be in a window where you're not going to have the fresh tires? Do you make the undercut work, or do you hope that you can stay out long enough to make magic happen?
I mean, we've seen Zier pull off the overcut strategy at New Hampshire, and sort of similar tracks. I'm always one for extending on ovals, for the sole reason of, especially here, we've not really talked about the pit entry outside of Pacey Wygen's issue, but under green, that is a treacherous pit entry. You've got to shoot the gap in the wall on the front stretch. And if I'm a driver who has a bit more fuel in the tank, who made that top off earlier, I'm holding out because maybe that's going to bring a caution out, as Zach McBride, I think, has a bit too much damage from that earlier incident. He's going to bring it down early and take some repairs. But if I'm one of the cars who's on the alternate, who's pit most recently, I'm taking the gamble. I'm expecting that maybe cars miscommunicate on the way into the pit lane. We've seen it before this season. And I think that could then bail them out and trap some cars a lap down, potentially.
Yeah, I'm with Olivia on this one. I'm much more of a stay out, because I prefer a nice short fuel stop at the end of the race. I like to try and game it so that I spend as little time on pit lane right at the end where it matters. So I'm very much keeping an eye on your Bobby Blowers and Craig Forsyth at the moment. Who, an interesting thing to note, as Lily Peletier Sharp's lap times have stayed around a consistent 22.2, it's only really now that Blowers and Forsyth are starting to get their 5-lap average down towards that 25.2 range, but they're not matching it at the moment. Well, Pelletier Sharp has just improved her 5-lap average to a 22.1, whereas these guys are still sat down at 22.3s. They are still losing time.
Yeah, we'll look here. We'll look at Connell's lap times here. Obviously, this is the gap she's had to deal with compared to Lily Pelletier Sharp. And you see the gap going from 3.4, 3.5, 3.6, 3.7. She gained a little bit in lap 69, but now it's opened up by 0.2 on lap 70. Here to complete lap 71. We'll see what this gap looks like. Zach McBride out after just making a tire stop. That was a planned stop for McBride, who had lost his tires there. Just needed to come down and get onto some fresh rubber. He's done that. He's going to be in the way of Sophie Connell for a little bit, who drops below 4 seconds on the gap to the race leader. But you're seeing on your screen right there just what that gap looks like. Pelletier Sharp absolutely clear, nothing really stopping the French driver from leading this race still. Remember the last time the Real Life Series went to Milwaukee Mile, the French driver won that race too and almost lapped the field.
We're seeing the fuel load burning off. Remember, the cars that started to stay out under that last caution have now been running for almost 50 laps. They'll need to be in soon, but we're seeing how much the fuel load burning off. Pelletier Sharp setting a 22.0, 3 laps in a row now. Sophie Connell can only get into the 22.2s. And while Lilac Zero and Trade Forsyth are starting to reach similar pace, they are more than half a lap down from the 18 car at this point. And so are going to need a lot of strategy magic later on in the race to close that up. I think really they're in a battle against the cars like Sophie Connell and Alex Miller. And I think if this does stay green, Pelletier Sharp might have this, but Blowers and Forsyth are running side by side here. Again, both cars who made the stops, looks like Forsyth having the old tires still, and Blowers does hold on for P4, but Forsyth coming back, and there's the call from the 18 car. It's gonna have to come down pit road now.
And that's a hard pit lane
unlap
to
Mo
get.
Perry, but she gets it right. And that, if you're on the box the 18 car, that is what you want to see. You want to see a nice smooth entry, nothing too risky, and no penalties.
So the pit stop time is for Pelletier Sharp here. You want a clean pit stop here. 7.7 for Pelletier Sharp on that pit entry. It puts Sophie Connell in the lead of this race at the moment. So Sophie Connell getting laps led here in the Milwaukee Mile. And gonna put Pelletier Sharp, I believe, just 1 lap down.
Just 1 down, but as soon as Connell does have to pit, and it will be soon, they will unleash Pelletier Sharp again to go back onto the lead lap. And again, we saw less than 25 seconds total transit time for Pelletier Sharp. I believe she was fastest in that first caution cycle. And there's call from the 69 crew. Connell will pit this time, but doesn't have any more fuel. That will put Pelletier Sharp back on the lead lap, and she is good to the end of the race now. We'll see what happens with the other drivers. It looks like Alex Miller now inheriting the lead, and maybe his first lap sled of the season, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But again, we'll have to come down very soon. It's him and Bryce Socia, the only ones still left.
Now the big dividend for Alex Miller is that he had 6.4 seconds to Craig Forsyth. So once everyone cycles through their pit stops, as separated as the pit window is right now, Miller should still be comfortably ahead of Forsyth on the exit of that pit window. As Connell had a 7.7 second stop as well, mirroring Pelletier Sharp, so no gain there in the pit lane. As here comes Miller down pit lane. His last pit stop was a 8.5. Timer resets here. He had a slower pit stop under caution.
That puts Connell back onto the lead lap as well.
Yeah. Saucier in pit lane as well. So all the cars that stayed out on that initial, or that last caution, are now in pit lane. Miller leaving pit lane, slower stop, 8 seconds flat for the 49 crew. Bryce Saucier in pit lane. Let's see what pit stop time he's got leaving pit lane. It's a longer stop. Repairs being done for Bryce Saucier. He's going to leave after 12.6 seconds, almost a double pit stop time. But Saucier back on track now. He'll lose some time compared to everyone else. Forsyth, who came down for fuel only, 3.6 seconds, but now in the lead of this race.
Yeah, Craig Forsyth then cycling back to the front of the field for the first time since he led in the first, well, after the first restart, I believe.
Yeah, he led the early laps here from pole position, yeah.
So he's done about 44 laps on this tank so far, so he should only have it, well, anywhere between 6 and 16 laps left in the tank. But Lily Pelletier-Sharp, who was the first of the stoppers, probably holding a breath for a couple of laps there, hoping that no one stacked it in the wall and brought out a caution, because that was the risk of pitting so early. You don't want to get trapped a lap down in case that pace car does need to come out on track for a wreck.
And remember, Pelletier-Sharp was in reaching distance of a race win at Richmond earlier this season. The strategy just did not work out for Pelletier-Sharp. At late caution, undid everything like we were talking about there. Hoping that didn't happen here. Now it shouldn't. Pelletier-Sharp's in a good range. Blauer's in pit lane. Pelletier-Sharp just at the fast lap once again, a 21.75, so she's flying. But Forsyth and Zier running the tank completely dry. I believe that's Alex Miller just in front of Forsyth, who is continuing to click laps away. Bonus points matter here. It's a bonus point for a fast lap right now in the hand of Pelletier-Sharp. Bonus point for a lap led. 2 for most laps led. So Forsyth and Pelletier-Sharp are absolutely duking it out for the laps led marker right now. Forsyth taking that crown right back from Pelletier-Sharp, but pit stops still required for the 27, the 89, the 41. And I believe that's it as far as the drivers that need to come down pit lane one last time.
It'll be the 27, 89, 41, and 28. Yeah. But we've had some... It's tricky when you're the leader there, and the cars around you want to try and hold on to lead lap. Forsyth did a good job picking through them both, as Mo Perry now decides to come down pit road after being lapped. Lilac Zir also... Lilac Zir also getting past Alex Miller now. So both of those cars need these cars ahead to make their stops, otherwise they'll have to take a wave around here, which isn't the end of the world, but it's definitely not the preferred way if we do have a caution. Sophie Connell and of course Pelletier-Sharp well clear to hold on for lead lap currently, as Lilac Zir making the call. She's in the next one on pit road, and we'll see if that overcut from the lead pack is enough. Nice safe entry from Zir, not too many risks, and down to pit speed safely, no penalties given. Now Forsyth response now is going to pit this time by, and it'll just be Martin Roberg out unless he decides to follow as well.
So Zier in pit lane, 7.7 was the benchmark set with Pelletier-Sharp, 8.3 for Zier. Not a great pit stop there for the 89. We'll see what Forsyth can do. Remember, they had to take a little bit more fuel.
Forsyth got a penalty.
Oh no. That's a 26.
Locked it up on entry and spared heavily.
Forsyth, a 26-second stop and hold penalty. He's going to be on pit lane. He's going to lose a lap easily here. The only dividend is that he's still going to gain points in that championship conversation. But you see the timer just go up and up and up as Roberg comes down pit lane. Pelletier-Sharp will re-inherit the race lead. Pelletier-Sharp already going around on your screen there in the turn 1. Roberg will come out of pit lane and will still have a chance to really fight to stay ahead of Craig Forsyth here. 8.2 seconds off for Roberg. A little slower than I think we were expecting there. As Forsyth
up to P4 on that strategy now.
We see the timer. Of course, Forsyth still going. Up now, 48 seconds. That penalty brutal for Craig Forsyth. He's now down in the 10th position, having to now try to catch up to Mo Perry.
Yeah, that was it. We were talking about how difficult that pit entry was, just trying to thread the car through 2 very solid concrete barriers. We've already seen one driver make a mistake on pit entry today, and now your pole sitter Craig Forsyth locking it up and getting a speeding penalty. It's easy enough to do when you're carrying so much speed off of the admittedly very low banking, but you're still carrying loads of speed off it and trying to get down to pit lane speed. It's tricky enough to do with so little downforce on the car, because it's just a deceptively low amount of downforce on these champ car machines. Just not enough grip and too much confidence for Craig Forsyth, and he's thrown away what could have been a really good pit stop there and kind of got him back in the game for this race.
Looking at right now the battle for the top 5. This is 4th-5th between teammates Martin Roberg and Bobby Blowers for Orlando Outlaws. Blowers to the inside, driving around Roberg. Blowers is the more experienced in this car than Roberg. Roberg, this is his second start in the Champ Car World Series. Blowers in championship contention, especially with how tonight's gone so far. These points for Blowers in 34, they matter significantly. For Roberg, he'd be playing spoiler on his teammate, but he wants that position as well. He wants the top 5 to put a feather in his cap here after what's been a wild week so far. Blowers a little bit of latency into the inside of turn 3. Roberg staying on the outside lane. All reliable. He's going to take 5th back from Blowers, riding on board with him. So still some fighting going on here on track, and Saucier's in the mix as well.
I have a bit of a confession to make here. When I was calculating the fuel strategy, and I said that after that first caution, it would be it'd be one clear stop to the end.
It's not.
I was remembering the lap number. I'm used to be in 124 as all of our intermediates have been. We have 140 laps here, and in fact, the cars that did not stop under that second caution, which includes our top 3, are going to be marginal on fuel. They're going to have to do a bit of saving. We have 40 to go. I'm pretty confident that Zir, Robert, and everyone else who was in that latter group should be able to make it to the end from here. Alex Miller could be questionable, but the people at pit at the start of the cycle, Sophie Carmen and Pele Chase Sharp, I think they might need a caution here. We've seen the gap that Pele Chase Sharp has built, and it's possible maybe she can make that 2-stop work and still come out with enough pace to win the race, but she's going to have to keep building the gap because, in truth, Mila Day, who has now gotten past Alex Miller in pretty short order and onto the podium, is looking like the favourite on strategy right now.
This is what I'm saying. She's the outlier. She's the one that goes to the different things that might work, and she's making it happen again. Lilac Zir currently sat in the box seat, who's just come off the back of a weekend doing 16 hours of a 24-hour race in the Ford GT3 of all things, is now sat in P3 in a champ car at a mile-long oval. As I say, in the box seat for a race win. It cannot get that. It cannot get that different in a 3-day turnaround.
And to think about that in between, on Monday she was in the duels for the HTL Daytona 500. So she's driven a sports car, a stock car, and now contending for a race win in an open wheel car in a span of 4 days.
Not just that, she also on Sunday night, like basically the same day as finishing up that 16-hour stint, went into ARCs and ran the 300 there.
Yeah,
300 miles of Charlotte in a stock car.
And finished in
the I remember had a pretty good performance, yeah.
Yeah, finished second.
It makes doing the double look absolutely minor. She's got to race 4 different cars in the space of 3 days to at least minor success. She's absolutely she's crazy. And I think it really puts a highlight on just how diverse a field of drivers we have here, because we've got guys who run open wheelers all the time. We've got folks who run stock cars all the time and trucks, and a lot of the names in this list I saw in sports cars during the race over the weekend, and here they are driving, admittedly a vaguely similar car, but in completely different conditions and absolutely killing it.
Zir right now sitting third, closing in 18 seconds behind Pelletier Sharp, less than a lap, but gaining. That's the important question out of that. Gaining right now over Connell and Pelletier Sharp at the moment. Connell sitting in second, Pelletier Sharp sitting in the lead. Are they good on fuel? The window suggests they're not. They've got to do some saving. Now, both of them have a window. If they were to do so, they would have to start saving. They would have had to start saving pretty much immediately. But they have a window that they could give up some time and save fuel, there's engine map modes in this car. There's 5 in this car that you can use to save varying amounts of fuel. My question is, with the heat of the day, everyone's running a more closed-off radiator. Has everyone strayed away from using that engine mode to avoid overheating the engine?
I think they should be fine. The track temp is pretty hot, but up north here in Milwaukee, it's only 20 degrees with some cloud cover in the air, and there shouldn't be too many issues on temps here as that McBride pulls into the pits, and we'll give P9 to trade Forsyth after that pit lane trouble. I'm expecting we won't have too many overheating problems, so map 5 will be available. The question is just, is it enough fuel save for Pelletier Sharp to be able to make it to the end? And I don't think it is. I think the best strategy for her and for Sophie Connell is just to go flat out here, take a splash and dash in the final stop, and hope that their raw pace is enough to make those gaps back up. But Pelletier Sharp had a little bit of contact with Alex Miller as she was coming to lap the 49 car. Nothing too serious, like both cars are in one piece, but it just slowed both of them down a little bit, and that's exactly what Lila Zia wants to see, because if Pelletier Sharp continues extending this gap, we saw when she pit the first time around, she only just fell a lap down, and she's nearly a lap ahead of Lila Zia now. Zia on the exit of turn 2, while Pelletier Sharp entering turn 2.
And I think holding up Sophie Connell right now is this battle that exists right now for the top 5 between Saucier and Roberg. You're looking at Sophie Connell to the back of Roberg's car right now. That's how close Connell is to this fight, and we can pan the camera right forward. There's Saucier and Blowers. Saucier and I believe another lap car there. Wow!
Oh wow, there's contact!
Roberg got collected by Connell, and that's going to throw the caution out.
It's a clumsy move down the inside of turns 3 and 4 by Sophie Connell. They've been looking for a gap to try and get through that fight for the last 10 laps or so to try and bring that gap to Lily Pelletier Sharp down. But perhaps in a moment of desperation, just sending it way too deep on the inside of Martin Roberg and just completely wiping him out. They were straight on the radio though to apologize, but that's going to help out Lily Pelletier Sharp.
And this
It probably too much solace to the 41, who had an excellent debut last week at Kansas, to lock in his eligibility for the 500. Looks like the short track is not going to favor him so much, and his day will probably be done here. You see from the shopper cam
here, and you see Sophie just sit to the inside, and it just does not ever stick, because Roberg was running, and Sophie just drives a little bit up here. Yeah, and just clobbers him right there in the left rear quarter.
It looks like Roberg maybe tries to arc the corner a little bit, but it's definitely Connell's move up that's doing almost all of the work there, unfortunately. And they're the one to continue running out of all of that, but that does bring out a caution, and all of that talk we had about fuel strategy and whether drivers had enough to make it, it's still a contributing factor, because Pelletier Sharp has had to come down pit road here for a splash. But we've seen what her pace is like. She's got fresh tyres now, and Lila Zia has been able to stay out with the fuel advantage. But now Pelletier Sharp is right behind, and I can't imagine it'll take long for the 18 to make that move back.
So Zia will lead the way over Pelletier Sharp, Sophie Connell in 3rd. Alex Miller 4th, Saucier 5th.
Everyone taking the wave around, other than Pelletier Sharp and Connell.
It's just a testament to the gap that Lily Pelletier Sharp managed to build to the rest of the field. She put so much time on them that everyone's getting the wave around, and she only managed to drop 1 position in all that. From everyone else staying out, she dropped 1 position. Alex Miller though coming down pit lane for a late stop relative to everyone else. I was about to talk about.
He is the free pass, so he's allowed to stop a lap later.
Free pass in P4.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's wild. Saucier and Flowers, they'll be on the lead lap having stayed out here. They'll get a wave round, so they'll be 5th and 6th on the lead lap.
Perry and Forsyth will be 1 down.
Yeah, they're still going to be 1 lap down. Yeah, McBride is going to be 2 laps down, but he also made that pit stop early before the leaders could. so he's going to be that extra lap down. But sitting in 9th place, Roberg in pit lane, his race effectively over here. Wygen and Withers still running though, so Withers in contention still, especially if there's more trouble here in the last about 20 laps. Car down pit lane is Wygen, so Wygen's going to bail out and grab some fresh tires because he's probably going to need them to avoid whatever happens on this restart.
And I will note, some of these cars taking the wave around, Bryce Socia has already been out 35 laps, needs to extend it another nearly 25 to get to the checker.
Yeah.
These cars might not be good on fuel, they might be hoping for a quick caution to give them a chance to top up the fuel tank, because otherwise it's going to be a long save ahead of them, but rather that than get trapped to lap down on fresh tyres, because what are you going to do with them then?
Just to quickly talk about biggest movers so far this race, shock horror, it is your current P1 spot, Lilac Zier, who's taken the restart 10 places up on where she started.
From 11th to 1st right now for Lilac Zier. We're going to see if she can hold it. There were some fresh tire cars with Sharp, Connell, and Miller just behind. 22 laps to go at the line. The pace car takes the sharp left-hand turn into pit lane. Zier leads. Gearcats 1-2 at the moment. Racing once again here in Milwaukee. Everyone fans out immediately, trying to find some real estate quickly. Trap position was important early in this race. Is it important now? Or is it about the tires that Zier does not have? Everyone else does. Miller trying to defend now from cars getting around that are not on the lead lap, but trying to instigate something going forward there. Miller getting passed by Perry, Saucier, and there's Craig Forsyth just behind as well. Miller losing a lot of spots here.
Fortunately, a lot of lap machinery here, so only 6 cars on the lead lap to battle, but nearly contact up near the wall between Bryce Saucier and Craig Forsyth. Again, cars on different laps, but they both want to make a charge forward and getting a bit tangled up. Again, we did see this after that earlier caution. The cars who stayed out and took the lower fuel load and the hot tires actually had a very good run for the first few laps after the restart. And we're seeing Sophie Connell on the fresh tires is really not able to keep up and is falling to the clutch of the cars behind. But what we do have is Pelletier Sharp, whose pace has been electric all night, nearly catching the wall on the entry of 3, but trying to find a way around Lilac Zier. She is right on the diffuser here. And the more they run, the more those tires are going to fire up, and the more pressure the 18s will be put in here. But for now, the 89 is doing a good job defending. Pelletier now to the inside. Can she make that low line work? A little bit loose. The wrist steps out just to back out of it. The 89 car doing a great defense right now, but again, these cars are teammates, so they've got to try and keep the racing calm-ish. But there's 17 laps to go, and neither driver wants to give it up here.
The biggest question that was in my mind was whether a bit of a team game was going to be played here. Lilac Zier out there on the much older tyres effectively has a rear gunner in the form of Lily Pelletier Sharp right now, who could easily stay behind and just kind of help defend, but Pelletier Sharp not wanting to stay behind for long, side by side through turn 1, but not able to build the momentum on corner exit, but leaving each other plenty of room. Still got that nose alongside of the run down to turns 3 and 4, but doing all this, these two are just losing chunks and chunks to Sophie Connell behind.
Yeah, Sophie's finally gotten clear here to try to challenge once again. Zier not as good at 1 and 2. You're seeing Pelletier Sharp make a lot of time in 1 and 2. Zier better in 3 and 4. So it's an interesting ebb and flow battle here. As you see the cars there down the back straightaway. Once again, Zier leaves the inside open to Pelletier Sharp. Pelletier Sharp goes for it, trying to make it work, but can't. Zier leads once again. Neither of these drivers have won a race this season. Both of them a race winner in previous seasons of the Champ Car World Series, but looking for their first right now here in Milwaukee. It's not the Magic Mile, but it could be a Miracle Mile for 2 of these drivers. And Sophie Connell, if these 2 make contact and violate rule number 1 in your racing code, Sophie could end up also breaking through here and grabbing a first win. Only that would be in her Champ Car career as a whole. Check up there. Peltier Sharp to the inside, has momentum, side by side. And Peltier Sharp finally got clear there. Vizier followed everything up there, and Peltier Sharp did not lift.
Now, Zier has to think big picture here, because third in the championship, top 2, not here this week. This is a huge chance to close up in the points, and even a podium finish here would definitely vault her into the conversation heading into Phoenix and the 500. But she just has to make sure that she doesn't overextend. It looks like she can't really reach out at Peltier Sharp now anyway. Her focus is on defending from Sophie Connell behind, but she can't take too many risks, because the difference in points between a 2nd place finish and a 10th place finish is huge.
And this is where something I had to emphasize here. Peltier Sharp entered this race 160 points, or 162 points off the championship lead. Still outside the window with 2 races to go. If she holds on to this position right now, Zier is 49 points behind Emily Howe. If she were to win that race, she'd become the championship leader. Now she'll be about 10 points off the championship lead. That's how different it is in the points. That's how different first and second is. That's why Zier fought so hard there. You like having that cushion. You like having control of your own destiny this late to the season, and Zier was looking for that. Peltier Sharp, though, desperate to try to get into championship contention, because she needs this result not only now but next week at Phoenix as well, just to have a shot at Indy.
Yeah, and now she's coming under a bit of pressure from Sophie Connell. Even though the gap's not changed too much, Connell is still on those fresher tyres. And as Zier's tyres start to fade away, that's when the number 69 car could come back into it. But with 7 laps to go on the line this time by, that's not a lot of time to make anything happen.
It really isn't. But Sophie looking, again, this has been a season that's not quite going to Sophie's plan. They've been trying everything to try to get some results going. It's been up and down. Obviously, being collected in incidents. Almost got collected in one there with Martin Roberg just a few laps ago. Looking for a potential podium here in Milwaukee. Alex Miller, nowhere to be seen. He got stuck in traffic and really hasn't been able to dig out of it. As Tommy Withers goes another lap down here, he will, I think, stall at 11th. Being 4 laps behind Pacey Wyatt. Almost spun it there, trying to let the leaders go through.
Keeps it pointed in the right direction. We stay green. And as we come to 5 laps to go here, the gap is 1.8 between Lily Peltier Sharp and Lilac Zier. The 18 car, who's been dominant for much of this race's run, is looking to hold on to take her first win of the season. And the gap between Zier and Connell now opening up a bit. Almost a second. And I think unless Sophie has a late charge, Zier is going to be able to hold on for this P2 finish, which is going to put her right in contention with Emily Howe and Austin Farr with 2 races to go in the championship.
If we asked Lilac Zier at the start of this season if she thought she'd be in with a shot at the championship come this point, I don't know what her answer would have been. But she's going to be absolutely ecstatic that she's even in the conversation at this point.
3 laps remain. Go ahead, Liv.
I say, especially with the competition that we've seen come in mid-season here, Austin Farr especially, lighting up the Champ Car circuit. But we've seen the old head, Lilac Zier, who I think it's safe to say favors consistency and a smart strategy. It's been enough to hold on, and anything could happen at the double points 500 really. So it's all to play for. But as we come to the white flag here, it's Lily Peltier Sharp, who has had a fantastic race, just has this 1 lap car of Mo Perry to navigate. And it looks like Perry will give the inside line here.
He's definitely not giving the position up. Definitely going to try to block Peltier Sharp. But through 3 and 4 for the final time, Lily Peltier Sharp make it a 2nd career win in the ABN Champ Car World Series. She takes Milwaukee. It's a 1-2 for Gear Cats. Sophie Connell finishes 3rd behind Lilac Zier. Alex Miller comes home in 4th. Bobby Blowers atop 5 as he comes out of turn 4. Not where he wanted to be, thinking of where this race could have been. The top 5 helps his efforts in the championship hunt as well. Peltier Sharp still outside the championship window with 2 races to go, but gaining 53 points on that margin. She'll celebrate here in Milwaukee, and she'll burn it down.
And we have to say, I don't think there's any driver who deserved that race win more. Just had fantastic pace all the way through. And I think crucially did have those very clean, very quick pit stops under that first caution, under that green flag cycle where others faltered. Peltier Sharp hit her marks and had a nice quick stop with a good strategy, which has been crucial so many times this season. Here for the 18 crew, it is their second career win, and really a statement here at Milwaukee, looking towards the end of the season and towards next season.
Yeah, it was a brilliant bit of driving from Peltier Sharp all race. I think she's been really threatening to be a contender for a race win for quite a good chunk of the championship so far. We have seen her jump to the head of the fields a couple of times so far this season, but now she's really had her time to shine, kind of taking that lead quite early on after that second caution and then just kind of running away with it.
Well, while we see the Polish victory lap there by Peltier Sharp, we do have interviews to do. We'll start with third place finisher Sophie Connell. I believe Taylor's got a hold of the third place finisher here at Milwaukee.
Sophie Connell, it is Taylor in the ABN booth. Do you get a copy?
I copy.
Finally, the commentator's curse doesn't strike, and that is your best result so far of the championship and your first podium. Talk us through that one.
To be honest, I'm kind of surprised. I'm not particularly good at ovals, but you know, I've been taking a much more casual attitude towards these of just like, I'll probably DNF, and so it's just like, you know, just relaxing. You know, just easing the car in through the turns, saving a little bit of fuel. I kind of burned myself at, you know, Kansas. I was saving too much fuel. And so I kind of was just chilling and really kind of accepting that I just didn't have enough pace for Lily. Lily was just on another level today, and that's fine by me. So, yeah, I was just chilling until I accidentally got into Martin. I just started washing up the track. I don't know exactly why, but I just didn't have enough grip, and I tapped him. I was trying to back out of it, and I couldn't, and I'm really sorry, Martin. But other than that, it was pretty much a nice, relaxing Wednesday evening.
You've already answered my second question for me straight off the bat, but we were talking earlier in the broadcast about how we thought the inside line was very much going to be the line to run today. When did you kind of figure out that that wasn't going to be the case and switch to that top side?
I had like popped in before the session opened for like just running a couple laps because I've never raced at Milwaukee. This is literally my first time on the track, and I was just like, the I5G guide said you can't run the top, but it's pretty good up here. So I, for the most part, was running the top. I was running the bottom when I didn't want to push the car too hard, or there was a lot of traffic, running the top up ahead because aero push is still a thing. You don't want to scrub off your tires too much. I wanted to make sure I had something in the bank if I needed it. But yeah, I mean, just testing.
So just a bit of a different question to kind of swerve a little bit away from Champ Car. We've seen a lot of drivers in this race kind of go from the Race Records 24 this weekend into Champ Car machines today. So how difficult is it to go from Le Mans in a GTP to a Champ Car at the Milwaukee Mile?
I mean, I personally dislike the GTPs. The braking. Yeah, they're the braking in them. I've never been able to master. So I wasn't fully on pace there. And then on top of that, my brake pedals actually broke. That's actually why I stopped driving. My pedals just kept disconnecting. So I actually fixed them today. So this is, again, first race on freshly rebuilt pedals. So, I mean, there's things that are similar about a GTP in that it's very downforce dependent. But I just don't. The braking's different. The braking is a lot easier in the IndyCar Champ Car versus the GTP with the regenerative and everything with the migration. It just makes it a challenge for me that I haven't quite mastered. So, yeah, that was the adjustment there.
I appreciate that insight. However, though, your pace has been looking threatening all season, and you've finally made a result out of it. We are going to a kind of similar style of track next week at Phoenix, so can we maybe expect a similar result?
Possibly. I've raced at Phoenix both in the officials and open and fixed. It's a pretty decent track. I like it. It's a bit of a death bowl. So I think staying out of trouble is the key there, because it is pretty short and very fast. So as long as I deal with the aero push well and keep everything under me, I should be there towards the end. But yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing it. And as is tradition, the air is now yours to say anything you might want to whoever's listening.
I just wanted to say thank you to Diesel for encouraging me to do this, as well as to Brew, she's my normal endurance racing partner. So she's sitting this race out. So, but good luck with everything, Brew, and I look forward to competing with you next week. And I'm just gonna go enjoy this beer now. And yeah, free Palestine.
Well deserved, and congratulations on a fantastic result.
Thank you.
Moving on through the order here, we get to talk to one of the two GearCats cars that finished on the podium. We'll talk to the driver that finished second. We'll talk to Lilac Zier. I believe Olivia's got a hold of the second place finisher now.
Lilac, this is Olivia from the ABN booth. You got a copy?
Hello.
Hello. What a race that was. I know you were maybe not too thrilled about how it was feeling pre-race, but once again, strategy, it gives you the edge really to put yourself in the conversation, and it's a 1-2 for GearCat, second place for you. Talk us through the race. How'd it go, and how do you adapt to the conditions over the course of the race?
Oh boy, it was just like a roller coaster of emotions. I was out to lunch. I couldn't qualify good. I couldn't go fast on a long race run in practice. I was just like, well, I guess I'll just finish 12th or whatever. And even early on in the race, I wasn't really figuring it out. And then on the first pit stop, my spotter, he didn't do the whole countdown, so I didn't see my box, and I missed my box, lost 3 spots. So there's even more trouble. And then I was just like, okay, well, we could maybe make it on mega save from here with one thing, but then there was another caution 10 laps later, and I'm like, okay, well, we can definitely make it easily from here. But I'm not sure everyone else knew that or thought of that, or they were racing so hard they burned their tires up, and I just kind of slowly chipped away on people on the long run, even though I was still not feeling like I had any clue what I was doing. And by the time we got to the green flag stop window opening, I was like, well, I might actually get a top 5 or something here, and maybe even a podium. And Craig's ahead of me. He's probably got this figured out. And then he had a penalty or something. His pit stop was really long, and I'm like, well, the only 2 cars ahead of me pitted way before me, and I have about 1 lap of fuel to the good. So if this goes green, I might pull out a win out of nowhere. And then the caution came out. So I was like, yeah, I'll stay out. I don't think I'm going to be able to hold on to it. And obviously it wasn't, but I held on better than I thought I would. We got second and was leading for a few laps at least. So that was good. I still don't know how to drive this track.
It was a fantastic show, especially at the front of the field. Just talk us through that final run, trying to fend off Pelletier Sharp, who had such good pace all race. But you had the tires that were fired up and I guess the lower fuel load. How was it trying to hold on to that gap while also bearing in mind that rule 1 of racing is not to wreck your teammate?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Don't wreck your teammate and don't wreck yourself out of a podium. But But yeah, on the restart, my tires were warm and I had low fuel, and I got a decent jump, so I was able to hold on there. Then she got her tires warmed up and got going, and I just tried to kind of take a line that was, good for me and maybe not the best for her behind, but without doing anything unpredictable or stupid. And that worked for a little while. If we had only like 10 laps of racing there, I might have been able to hold on to it. But the tires definitely paid off in the end. But I wouldn't have had a chance at it if I came in for tires. So I had to go and do the strategy call. And it gained me second, so happy with it. A good 1-2 for the team.
Fantastic result for the team, and for you, I know you probably don't want me to bring it up, but that does launch you right into contention at the top of the championship, especially with Emily and Austin missing out on this round. 2 races to go. Phoenix next week, and then Ice 4 to double points at the Arrowhead 500. How are you approaching those 2 races, given your position in the championship? Are you keeping that in mind any, or are you just taking each race as it comes?
Drop weeks makes things hard. Math hard. I will just drive the car and not think about the points.
Sounds like a plan. Well, congratulations on an excellent finish, and as usual, if there's anyone want to thank, anyone want to shout out, the floor is yours. Congratulations on P2 here at Milwaukee.
Yeah, thanks. I want to thank you for broadcasting it, ABN, and both broadcasting it and hosting the league. I got to thank my teammates, Lily. Emma wasn't here tonight, but always happy to be on her team. And thank the fans at home.
Go for it, go.
Go for it.
Go for it, go. Congratulations, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
That was Lilac Zier, the second place finisher here tonight. A phenomenal job for Lilac, almost in position to potentially win that race if the strategy call went a little bit different, but also if the tires were a little bit better at the end of that race as well. Different options there for the 89 car. The 18 not going to be denied any further on being in victory lane here at Milwaukee after near miss after near miss. Lily Peltier, Sharpie race winner at the Milwaukee Mile. Driver of car number 18. Lily, this is Carmen from the ABN booth. You got a copy?
Yes, indeed I do.
It seemed like this was an eventuality at some point. We've seen how good you are in different machinery here at Milwaukee, and that pace was very evident tonight. Maybe not so much in qualifying, but once the race got underway, that 18 car was very hard to stop. Walk us through, obviously, the feeling of finally getting a race win this season. It seemed like you were close. You were close at Richmond, and strategy call didn't quite pay out. It pays out in dividends. It pays out in spades here in Milwaukee. Just walk through that feeling, that relief, and then walk through sort of just how the car felt tonight, because it seemed like that car had something that not a lot of cars had tonight.
So, in terms of, just to go to qualifying, I actually qualified in map 3 when trying to adjust my arbs. I also adjusted my fuel map by mistake, which I think cost me at least a front row start. I don't think I would have been able to get pole. But in the race, just the running I did earlier in the day, just to secure what adjustments suit my driving for exactly what I need when it comes to the wake jacker and how the rear handled, was big key thing for me. It's not only not burn up the fronts, but keep that right rear in check, and it paid off big time. Didn't doubt myself this time on a strategy call like I did in Richmond. I sort of had this feeling that I knew that even if it went green, I think a short stop, if the pace was there, would have got me out just ahead of Lilac with not taking tires. And just glad that caution came out and I didn't need to do it and I could take tires, which I think helped me massively on the restart once they were warmed up.
Obviously, Lilac was going to battle you very hard. It was a points lead versus you obviously trying to get into the championship conversation here. You went from 16th to 11th. There's 2 races to go. The margin is to try to get within 80 points of the championship lead with 2 races to go. Phoenix is up next, and that's a race where for you it's been either feast or famine. You've either done well or it's been an early night out. Going into Phoenix with just 7 days to think about it and 7 days to get ready, and it's a completely different track to Milwaukee. Sophie, I think, called it the Danger Bowl. It's not going to be a very inaccurate description there with lap times less than 19 seconds when we go to Phoenix under the lights there. What is your feeling going into that? Is the Cinderella story towards a potential championship run possible? Can you win at Phoenix? And obviously that leads into Indianapolis. Can you try to win out the season? What's the comfort level going into this, or is it genuinely just one level at the time? Is the championship even a goal you're looking at this point with those 2 races to go?
So I thought I was already out of it, just races I've missed and bad results going my way. So hearing that, I mean, there's like a 1% chance everything falls my favor and that happens. So really, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking more to securing the team's championship for Gear Cats. So I think what I'm looking forward to is doing what I did again this for Milwaukee and make sure I get the arbs and jacker just exactly how I want it. So to that point, all I need to focus about is looking after the tires while showing pace and hopefully get a result there at Phoenix. And Indy's a track I've always naturally ran well at in stock cars and to a certain extent these champ cars. So it'll be interesting to see what I can do there for the 500.
Well, it was a phenomenal job tonight with the 1-2 for Gear Cats. They did take the team championship lead by 17 points with 2 races to go. So the team ambition part of that is currently accurate there. But obviously, before we let you go and let you get ready, obviously for Phoenix in the next part of that, and obviously HTL Daytona 500 here on Monday coming up. If there's anyone to shout out and say thank you to, the floor is yours on that. Congrats on your second race win in the ABN Champ Car World Series. Let's see if that 18 car can pull at least one more win out before the season's over.
Also, sorry, before I shout out people, fun fact, last time I won, Lilac was also second, and it was a 1-2 for Gear Cats. And I was at USA last season. Anyway, big shout out to Lilac for not just being a phenomenal teammate, but also for racing me clean. As we discussed after, we weren't going to put any of us in danger, but just race clean and hard. And Emma, of course, for founding Gear Cats nearly 2 years ago now. That's the month, I think it's 2 years of Gear Cats. So try and win the championship for team championship. Just ABN for putting on the series and excellent broadcasts week in, week out.
Lily Peltier Sharp gets to enjoy another race win here at Milwaukee before we get to see Peltier Sharp again this weekend, not only in ARCS but in HTL on Monday as well. Lily, enjoy the race win, and hopefully we get to talk to you again over the weekend.
Hopefully. Thank you.
That was Lily Peltier Sharp, P1 here at Milwaukee after podium after podium. Finally, top step belongs to Lily Peltier Sharp tonight. We'll walk through the results here at Milwaukee. 15 cars took the start here. Lily Peltier Sharp, the best of the bunch, leading the most laps, grabbing the race win ahead of her teammate in Lilac Zier. Sophie Connell, a podium here at Milwaukee, rounds out the top 3. Alex Miller, another good result for the 49 car, who's also in championship contention. Just a little right under the radar here with 2 races to go. Bobby Blowers, a good result as well. Top 5 for him ahead of Craig Forsyth, the pole sitter, after a speeding penalty on pit lane. Still recovers for 6th place there over Bryce Saucier, Mo Perry, Zach McBride, and Pacey Wygand round out the top 10 here in Milwaukee. Tommy Withers and Martin Roberg round out the top 12. And then you page on through to the second part of the order. Blake Henderson, one of the early retirements. Same with Brandon Cruz and Nick Pressey. and yours truly, who took part in practice and nothing else there at the bottom, not really counting for anything there. Just nice to be on the board, nice to be included in that whole mix. Liv, Taylor, obviously a wild race, a quick race. 225 kilometers in the books here at Milwaukee. Phoenix up next. What are we looking at there going into, obviously, the end of this race and Phoenix? Liv, you've seen the best and the worst of Phoenix Raceway before. What are you expecting to see next week?
I think it depends on what the field brings, really. Phoenix is a track that is difficult to get right sometimes, but if you can get some cars who are willing to put on a show and willing to give each other a little bit of room just to let things happen, I think we could have an absolute showcase there. Is it going to be under the lights, or are we going to be heading over during the daytime?
It is a nighttime race. It is 100% under the lights.
Beautiful. So yeah, I think we could expect, if everyone cooperates, a very good race, but with tensions high as this championship heats up, it's going to be tricky for drivers to keep a cool head in the desert, and we might see a few pretty big wrecks with how high speed the track is, but hopefully we'll have an excellent show, and I can't wait personally.
Obviously, Taylor, we get to see you again on Saturday for the Platinum Endurance Championship, 12 hours of Sebring. Obviously, we get to see you there, and before we get to see you at Phoenix next Wednesday, what are you looking forward to throughout the week? Obviously, endurance racing, back-to-back weekends. What are you expecting to see on Saturday as we head towards the mastering of the bumps in Florida?
You know what? That explains why I've got Saturday off this week. I completely forgot it was PEC this weekend. I'm extremely organised. But first off, I want to say that this race, I think, surprised us quite a bit, because we very much expected the entire field to be on the inside lane for most of this race, not really being able to take advantage of the outside. But that iRacing oval refresh really coming in handy to take some grip away from the inside, make it a little bit trickier to run, but still a little bit usable to make moves work eventually. And we did see a lot more of that outside line today, which was really nice and really cool to see. Like, there's nothing more I love than coming into a race with expectations on what it's going to be, and then being completely blown out of the water by what we see. Because we had a lot of side-by-side racing, we had people making errors to keep it dramatic. Everyone was really going at it with the passion that we'd love to see in races like this. But Phoenix next week, as I mentioned whilst interviewing Sophie, is very much a kind of similar style of track. Really flat, really low banking. If we were to go there in stock cars, there'd be a lot of options to use on the front stretch. But of course, no dogleg for us. You are not allowed to run that. That is a penalty. So we are going to see Phoenix ran in the actual configuration that it's been built in, which is going to be actually quite refreshing to see, I can't lie. But as Olivia said, as long as people leave each other room and are actually smart about their driving, which we've seen this field can do, we're going to see a hell of a race over in Phoenix, Arizona under the lights. And I'm really looking forward to it. But to finish off, and completely unrelated, and because Olivia did it for me last week, Liv, you never got to get your fun stadium fact out.
Right, yeah. So post-broadcast last week, Taylor was chastising me because I mentioned the home of the Green Bay Packers up in Wisconsin, and Taylor pointed out that Milwaukee is nowhere near Green Bay, which is true. However, for a solid maybe 20 years or so, in sort of the 40s and 50s, the Green Bay Packers Stadium was on the grounds of the Milwaukee State Fair, where a quarter-mile dirt oval used to be, and where the media center now is for the Milwaukee Mile over in Turn 1. And that's where they played their games for about 2 decades, including an NFL championship win in the 1950s. So that just shows you the history of this track. It's been open more than 100 years, and in that time, it's got history not only in motorsport, but over in other sports as well.
Obviously,
and there you go. There's your stadium fact.
Obviously, this track opened in 1907, so a lot of work has gone into the Milwaukee Mile and the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds throughout the over century. I'm the oldest of the three of us. I don't want to hear it. But that being said, we go from one of the oldest facilities to one of the most recently revamped facilities. Phoenix Next Ray Phoenix Raceway next Wednesday. Look what you've done to me. Phoenix Raceway next weekend. I'm still messing it up. It's been a late night. But Phoenix Raceway under the lights next weekend. One of the fastest mile ovals you'll see in Champ Car machinery. 178 miles an hour, the average speed. Last time we went there. This season expecting to be even faster. We hope to see you there next Wednesday. The next broadcast we have is on Saturday. We'll be up bright and early from 7 a.m. Eastern. As much as I don't like being up that early, we're going to be up that early on a Saturday for the 12 hours of Sebring, race 4 of 5 for the Platinum Endurance Championship season, and then the ARC Square Cup Series next week from Worldwide Technology Raceway, most commonly known as Gateway. Then next week, very important, the 5th HT Daytona 500, Monday, 8 p.m. Joe Cortez, Kevin Young, Christina Ryan, the A-Plus crew there on tap for that event. We'll be at Fontana. No, we won't be on Fontana on Tuesday. That's an off week for the HL Truck Series. We'll be at Vegas in 2 weeks' time for that. And then obviously next Wednesday, it is the ABN Champ Car World Series from Phoenix. So some races back and forth here throughout the weekend. We'll see you on Saturday for Sebring for 12 hours there. On behalf of everyone here for ABN, for the Champ Car World Series, everyone here at ABN Studios, my co-commentators Olivia Hayward and Taylor Mills, I'm Carmen Sienna. On behalf of everyone here, stay safe, stay healthy. Have some fun at the end of this week. We'll see you on Saturday. Until next time, we'll see you later.